I think we'll move on to the just some rumors here for the Cup Series. It seems like they're basically confirmed, but Ryan Preece seems to be returning to the 37 car for JTG Daugherty Racing in 2021 per Adam Stern. Anytime Stern reports something, it's basically on it. So we'll take his word for it. It makes sense. We hadn't heard anything in terms of somebody taking that spot, and Priest didn't seem like he was too nervous about losing his spot either. So, I mean, I like Ryan Priest a little bit more than you, Kyle, in terms of how he performs. But I think he had a lot of bad luck when he came back from the pandemic and couldn't quite get the finishes there for a lot of races. But I think there's still a little bit of promise in Ryan Priest, and I think the lack of practice really hurt him this season as well. So if they come into next season with a bit more of a better mindset and they have a more of an understanding of what the expectations are for next season, he can perform better. But I know you feel a little bit differently on this one.
Yeah, what I'll say is speak for yourself when you say that it makes sense. It's no secret that I'm not a huge fan of Ryan Preece, specifically at JTG Daugherty. Sure, if he was in maybe a lesser car still in Xfinity, then sure. I especially liked him when he was kind of part-time at JGR and showed some flashes there. But he just hasn't been good enough in the Cup Series for me to warrant keeping his seat. Whether you look at the rookie season when he was leaps and bounds behind Chris Buescher, to this season when he gets Chris Buescher's crew chief, who is one of the more underrated crew chiefs, and Trent Owens, who is very good at getting his drivers track position through pit strategy, and Ryan Preece. Yes, they had bad luck this season, but when they didn't have the bad luck, Preece wasn't great either. He was one of the bottom drivers in the Cup Series in terms of peer. He was a good passer, and he has been a good passer at the Cup and Xfinity levels. That's one of the things that's maybe a saving grace to his style, but mediocre on restarts as well. And when Chris Buescher, is finishing close to or inside the top 20 in points, and then you essentially take over his ride because Preece went to the 37 and got Trent Owens as his crew chief. So even though he stayed at the same team, he essentially switched over to what Chris Buescher was doing and finished way, way behind what they were doing in terms of overall season points, finishing position, in terms of standings, everything there. I don't see it deserving of keeping his ride, because this is a guy as well that isn't necessarily a prospect either. He's 30 years old. He hasn't necessarily had the Cup Series or Xfinity time, so you can maybe see a little bit more promise there, but I just don't really see the upside to keeping Ryan Preece there versus taking a shot on somebody else, even somebody like a Daniel Hemrick, to be quite frank. So when I'm looking at this move, I just don't really get it from JTG's side, and I would assume that they're getting a cut rate price, maybe saving some money in that regard. Maybe just want to keep a familiar face going into next season. He has been good on super speedway races, and that kind of seems the direction that they're going towards, just given Ricky Stenhouse being kind of the mainstay at the team now. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of Ryan Preece at JTG, and yeah, I just think that there were much better options available than keeping Preece in that ride.
I disagree. I don't know. I think
disagree with what?
That he doesn't deserve that ride. I don't like.
What has he done to deserve the ride?
I feel like he showed more promise than a lot of people that could have been there in the Xfinity Series when he did that part-time with Joe Gibbs Racing. I think that was his kind of audition, and I think he succeeded at that. He won a race at Bristol. I mean, that's not easy to do. So I think when I look at that, and like you say, Daniel Hemrick, he hasn't won a race. Obviously, he's going into that 18 car that Ryan Preece won a race in, so maybe there's something to that. But I like Ryan Preece more than you. I don't know why. I think it's just I think JTG as a whole, this organization had a bit of a down year. The mid-pack got so much more condensed. Front row took that extra step forward, and I think JTG took that next step back a little bit. They kind of regressed from what Chris Buescher did in that car. I know Stenhouse had a great start to the season, but as the year went on, you could see the performance slowly fade away, and he was never really in contention, except for that Texas race to kind of end the season there where he had a solid finish. But besides that, I think Preece gained momentum as the season went on. During those summer months, yeah, it was tough. Of course it was tough. It was tough for a lot of people, and I don't know if he necessarily deserves to be kicked out of a ride. When I think last season he showed decent promise, but obviously Chris Buescher was heads and toes against above the rest in that regard. But I don't know. I think Preece deserves just one more shot. If he's similar to what he was this season next year, then maybe it's time. But I don't know if there was a better option out there for them to kind of bring in instead of Preece. And if it is cost saving to an extent, like you mentioned there, then I think it works for both parties. And I think the team itself and the organization like Preece as well. So I don't know. That's just my opinion, but something that we don't really agree on. That's something that's very rare, but we don't agree on this one. But I think that this is best for both parties for the current state, not for the future of the organization by any means, but for right now, I think Preece fits what JTG is trying to create over there.
The one thing I'll say is that for me, it's the sample size. You're basing it off of a handful of races at Joe Gibbs Racing, and specifically the wins when you look at Iowa and Bristol. But over the 72 races that he's been at JTG, there's not been a lot of bright spots. You look at the super speedways being a positive, and the other positive being short tracks. And that makes sense because he's coming from the modified series. He's a short track guy, but he hasn't been good at the bread and butter of NASCAR, which is the mile and a halves. And he's not a road course guy either. You look at the Xfinity level, and when he's been with Joe Gibbs Racing, or even the handful of starts he made with Junior Motorsports as well, yeah, he did great on the short tracks. But when it came to going to the mile and a halves, the results weren't all that great. Solid top tens, but you expect that at the Xfinity level. And in the Cup Series, the results haven't been there for me. And he's been worse than Ricky Stenhouse Jr. When he had the preferred crew chief there as well, the de facto number one status, I guess you would say, just given the allotment of the 37 car and Trent Owens as the crew chief. You look at the performance versus Chris Buescher, and that was night and day as well. And when I look at somebody like a Corey LaJoie, who's available on the market, who's been very admirable in backmarker equipment, I don't know why you wouldn't go and give him a shot versus somebody that you've given a shot to in Ryan Preece and hasn't performed.
All right, fair enough. I'm agree to disagree on this one. I still think if Preece doesn't do well next season, then I'll rescind my last remarks. But I think that there's definitely an opportunity there for him to just get that next step forward. I just think the company as a whole took a step back this year, and I think Chris Buescher just overexceeded expectations. Like, it was insane what he did in 2019.
Shouldn't you be striving to get guys like that overexceed, and then Preece is a guy that's remained there over the last 2 years, and the teams have regressed heavily this year?
I wouldn't say Corey LaJoie is going to be that much better than Ryan Preece, in my opinion. I think Corey LaJoie is good.
There, I disagree.
I think he's a very good driver, but I don't know if he's going to be that much greater than what Ryan Preece is doing. And I think the 32 car is almost in ways comparable to their equipment, not as much.
I heavily disagree there.
You disagree with that?
Hugely. The GoFast was using equipment from years ago for races this season, and JTG is getting stuff directly from Hendrick.
Yeah, but what was the points looking like for Preece at the end of the season compared to Corey LaJoie?
Like, or 70-point difference, I think.
Or to Stenhouse is probably the more comparable that I'm wanting to look at.
Here. So Stenhouse finished the season with 584 points on the season, which was a steep drop-off from what Chris Buescher had done, but a 77-point increase over what Ryan Preece did, and essentially what was the same car as last year, because Preece switched over to Trent Owens and Stenhouse went to the same crew chief that Preece was working with last year. Chris Buescher in 2019 as well put up 729 points. So a big drop off there between what Preece and what Buescher did. In terms of Preece versus LaJoie, Preece finished 29th in points with 477. Corey LaJoie finished 69 points back with 408 points.
It's interesting that neither of them. Never mind. I was looking at the wrong column. I thought they were Preece had 8 DNFs. Like, I think that's just I think you put it down to that too as well.
Yeah, that's why they're that close. But what I'm saying is LaJoie's equipment is, no offense to Go Fast, but garbage. And Ryan Preece is equipment that last year finished top 20 in points and had over 700.
But when you look at who's improved over this past season, RCR was behind JTG last season. We also have the 95 car getting into the mix there. Roush.
95 car actually had less points this season.
Really?
Yes. Season long points. Matt DiBenedetto last year had 699. Christopher Bell had 678.
Yeah, but the mid-pack got more condensed, and the points there weren't as many. But what I'm saying is,
like, RCR taking the big step up is the big one. You look at Richard Petty Motorsports as well.
Also, the 41 getting in there with Cole Custer, Suarez performing so poorly that year.
Yeah,
but, like, just making
Cole Custer dropped off big time versus what Suarez's points were.
I'm shocked by these numbers. I don't know why I think that these are better than what they are.
So the mid-pack did get closer. And you would say you would attribute some of that to JTG's drop off in terms of points as well. But you look at the teams that improved, you can also point to the 42 dropping off massively in points. You can point to the 41 there and Cole Custer dropping off pretty significantly in points there as well. But one of the big teams that dropped off in terms of points was the 37 there, going from Chris Buescher to Ryan Preece. They dropped off 252 points. They dropped off almost 42% in terms of their season-long points. And when I see stuff like that, and I just don't see a lot of upside in somebody like Ryan Preece, I would just be looking elsewhere. And whether that's going to somebody like a Ty Dillon, or going to a Corey LaJoie, or going to a Daniel Hemrick, I would just be trying something else, because I don't see the upside in Ryan Preece, and the results haven't been there currently. So I would just look to try something different. And obviously we don't know what's necessarily happening behind the scenes, what the going rates are for those guys, if they're maybe getting a really good price on Preece, and that's why they're putting him there. But when I look at the results year over year, I see positive results from Chris Buescher. I see upside in Ricky Stenhouse Jr. as a guy that can go out and win a plate race. I don't see that same upside in Ryan Preece. So I would just be looking elsewhere. I can understand maybe why you see some upside, because he's been good on super speedways. He's a good short track guy as well. But looking bigger picture for me, I just haven't seen it enough at the Cup Series level.
All right. I'm just looking at that thing you texted me the other day with the points differential, and I'm just making sure that I'm not like barking up the wrong tree. And yeah, I'm way off in terms. I didn't realize Cole Custer did that much more poorly than Suarez did this season.
Suarez was only like 4 points away from making the playoffs last year. People forget that.
Yeah, that's interesting. And then, yeah, I mean, Preece's numbers is pretty bad. 252 points
like
between Buescher.
The only team that had a bigger drop off last year was the 42.
No, well, that's understandable. 422 points.
That's including Kyle Larson's numbers at the beginning of the year as well.
That was tremendous. They were very good for the first 5 races.
They were trending better than what they were last year when he finished top 10 in points. But
yeah. Fair enough. You have statistics to back up your argument. That's for sure.
I definitely I can understand why some people may see some more upside, because he's a guy that has spent majority of his career in the modified series. He doesn't have a lot of consistent running in terms of Xfinity or Cup or even trucks or anything like that. So I can understand why some people will look at the numbers and go, okay, but if you give him another year or another 2 years, maybe he can figure it out. I just don't see him becoming that Chris Buescher type or Ricky Stenhouse type for your team, where either with Chris Buescher you get the season long performance that you would keep him around for, or Ricky Stenhouse Jr. type where you look at his performance and you go, solid over the year, but he has the ability to go out and win a very specific race. And you look before that as well, AJ Allmendinger, he could go out and win a very specific race for you. Those are the kind of drivers that I'm looking for a mid-tier team that can kind of propel that performance forward, whether going out and winning a specific kind of race or season-long consistent performance. And I don't see Preece doing that.
Fair enough. That's I think that was a good little chat that we had there. I'm glad that we had that. Made me kind of rethink some things maybe.
When he goes out and finishes top 20 in points, has an unreal season, we can clip it up and show how wrong I was.
Well, and then we could just see Preece fired mid-season next year, and then just see how wrong I was. So
It's been a while since we saw like a mid-season firing on performance.
This isn't Formula One, so we don't have that as much. But NASCAR is a little bit more tight-knit on that regard. They just let them finish the season no matter how crappy they are. But yeah, I think that'll do it for Ryan Preece for now.
Yes.
But that was a good little discussion there. I just think to conclude my thing, I think both drivers had terrible luck in Corey LaJoie and Ryan Preece, so that they brought their kind of rating, I guess, down this season. But when they were solid, I think Preece was a top 15, top 20 guy on his day. It definitely depended on the racetrack, maybe not so much on the mile and a halfs, but that was never their strong suit really before Preece got there, or even with Buescher. Buescher got some good results on there. Don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
but I think short tracks and on the road courses, Ryan Preece could be someone that we could look at next season with a lot of possibilities with the more road courses on the calendar as well. So I think that's maybe something that they had to do with their decision making too when they look at next season's calendar. There's definitely some upside for Preece to get some more consistent results on those types of tracks. So I'll conclude with that. So that's my Ryan Preece take. I never thought I would talk that much about Ryan Preece, but